Good morning, everybody. We are live at 6:45. I posted a note in the group yesterday that we are bumping up 15 minutes. Those of you who took the 1 more hour awake challenge maybe will appreciate this. Others of you may not. It's a change that I made to my schedule so that I could have 15 more dedicated minutes with my daughter in the morning as she goes off to school. So I am really excited about this week and to be back here with you. And let me just pull up my notes here. I do actually have some notes today that I have prepared for this topic. So all week we are going to be talking about the small things that create massive results in your life. Okay, so for those of you who are new, welcome. I know that we have some new members here in the group, and I'm excited to be here with you. And let's just kick it off with let me just kick it off with like a question for everyone, okay? Do you ever feel discouraged, right? Or feel like giving up on something because you haven't gotten the result yet, right? Because it just feels far away and it's like, what do I do in the meantime, right? Like, yeah, I know I've got this big vision, right? We've talked about how do you get connected to your vision? How do you get connected to a deeper purpose, right? But do you ever feel, and please let me know if you do you ever feel like, just wanting to throw the towel in, right? Just like, it seems so far away. I can't see how I'm going to get there. And it just feels like in the day-to-day grind, like you're not seeing any result. If you ever feel like that, that's this topic and this week is really going to support you, okay? Because I work mostly with entrepreneurs who are struggling or with entrepreneurs who are just getting started. Right? And so this comes up often, right? This idea of how do we, and we talked about this like a week or two ago, specifically, how do we stay focused on our goal until we achieve it? That was the biggest thing that was voted on inside of the group in terms of what you wanted support on. And so this is just going to be going deeper on that and give you really more practical ways. In that series, and you can go back and look at it, we did a topic on that every single day for a week. In that series, we talked really about the bigger picture, right? We talked about the vision. We talked about how you have to show up, who you have to be, personally responsible, declaring it. We talked about all of those things, right? About staying really committed to the vision. And getting connected to a deeper purpose. This week, we're going to go into some really practical things that I do in my own life and that I know work, okay? So as much as we like to think things happen overnight, trust me, I am somebody who, totally has that default system of like wanting something yesterday. So as much as we like to think things happen overnight, and online there's this lifestyle painted picture of, things happening overnight and things being easy and the laptop lifestyle and all of these other things, in fact, when I've spoken to somebody who's like, I want to work from home, I'm transitioning, like I want to leave my regular job and I want to have this freedom lifestyle, I always ask them, some really important questions like, why are you doing this? Meaning if you're only wanting to do this because you want all this free time and, it looks really attractive, the way it's presented online by other people. We make so many assumptions about people and people's lives based on what you see on, on social media. And most of the times it's just not even half of the picture, right? So I always ask them, why are you doing this? If you're only doing it for the money, if you're only doing it because, you think it's easy to sit back and work for yourself from home, then you're going to have a rude awakening, right? So change, transformation, big success, it takes time. It takes time, okay? And that should give you some, not anxiety, but that should make you feel relieved, there's nothing wrong with you if you're not seeing these big successes, you know, in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, even in a couple of years. Big transformation. If you're up to big things, and this group is called High Performer Lifestyle. So I know that if you're in a group, if you're attracted to a group, or if you're still in a group that changed its name to High Performer Lifestyle, then you want to live a bigger than average life. Right? You want to live a big life. You want to have exceptional results in your life. And so you have to acknowledge that that comes with time. It comes with consistency. It comes with tweaks, changes. It comes with, you know, peaks and valleys, right? It comes with self-exploration, right? So you have to get really good at playing this game. Right. In fact, I just had a conversation or an interview with someone for my new show, Not Born to Be Average. If you haven't, I'm going to put the URL here. If you haven't signed up for this, you really do not want to miss this show. I just put it in the comments here. You do not want to miss this show. I am interviewing such amazing people, and I've done online shows many times. This is my absolute favorite one because the people that I talk to are all up to big things in their life. And one of the conversations that Holly and I had during this interview was exactly what I'm talking about here, because she was explaining like the big peaks and valleys. Every single person that I interview has these big peaks and valleys, right? And she also, and you know, we had this conversation about like, you got to decide how you want to play this game, right? And in this particular instance, we were talking about entrepreneurship. I attract a lot of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, so I'm using this example. But it's the same thing in fitness. She's a fitness, a celebrity fitness trainer. She's like, you've got to watch this interview. It's so good. She's trained some of the biggest names in Hollywood, a presidential candidate. And so even it's the same thing in fitness, right? Like I'm now a professional bodybuilder. There is a journey along the way. Mine started, you know, mine started, gosh, I don't know, like 5 years ago, right? There's a journey. Big success, big transformation takes time. And if I go backwards, my fitness journey started like, you know, 25, 30 years ago, or no, I'm sorry, 15, 20 years ago. Okay. So today we're going to talk about how, now listen to this, how adding smaller games inside of the big game, right? Your big game is your big vision. It's your big goal. We're going to talk about how adding smaller games, you got it, like playing inside of the big game is actually what keeps you in the game. It's actually what keeps you in the game. Do you guys get that? Okay, so welcome again. Welcome to those of you that are new and that are watching the replay. You guys know that I've been an entrepreneur and a coach for almost 16 years now, right? So I am known for helping people get results. I'm known for creating results, huge transformations, right? And I help other people do that in their life. I've done it in the health and fitness arena. I've done it as a success coach. I worked, or as I not worked for, but I was a consultant for a Fortune 500 company where I worked with new entrepreneurs as a success coach, right? So, and I do it mostly as a mindset coach and a performance coach. And that's because I know how to help you get results. I know what performance gets to look like in your daily life in order for you to achieve what it is that you want. And I know how to coach you on the mindset that you need to keep along the way. So that is what I do, right? That is the bottom line, is I help people get results. The reason I'm sharing that with you, and the reason it's important for you to know that, is because the information that I'm sharing with you works. It works. I'm not just pulling this out of anywhere, right? So at a certain point, you've got to ask yourself, when I'm getting this coaching, when I'm getting this feedback, this guidance, and anyone that you follow who talks about mindset, who talks about high performance, who talks about results and success, you're going to hear these common threads throughout. So at a certain point, if you're struggling in your life with achieving goals, right? Whether it's in business or fitness, in relationships, at a certain point, you've got to ask yourself, when am I going to listen, right? Take it in and apply, right? Because I know if you're anything like me, at a certain point, I was stubborn. I'm like, but there's a consistency to the information that you're receiving. So don't disregard it. Don't disregard it. I'm here to share this with you so that you can actually apply it. Okay, so say hello, drop something in the comments, drop one thing in the comments that you really want to achieve or change. What is your big goal? I want to know the big game that you're playing, right? So for some of my clients, right, I work with mostly new entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and I also work with entrepreneurs who come to me because they're not getting the result that they want in their business and they're spinning. Typically, they have shiny object syndrome, so they get distracted a lot. They're really excited, they're creative, they've got all these ideas, and they've got the energy and the excitement about getting started, but they really struggle with going all the way, right? Or they struggle with having consistent results in their business, right? So they make some money and then it goes out, or they struggle with really knowing their value. And so they're not really charging what they're worth, or they struggle with really managing their mind. And really a lot of that is all managing your mind, right? So I work with many people in that category who have their big goal, the big game they're playing is to get their business to a certain financial mark. Maybe they want to make six figures, right? They've never made six figures. Maybe they want to get on stages, or they want to write a book, right? They have a big vision for their business, right? And so I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to pull it back a little bit. I'm going to give you an example, and then we'll come to another very personal example of someone else that fits into that. So, and you know what? Never mind. I'm going to give you an example of someone. Let me think. Okay. So right now I am coaching inside of my group called the Get Set Coaching Academy, and everyone there is an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur. So sorry about that. I'm going to give you an example of the group, right? So recently we came off of something called a 32-day Be Seen stretch, where I had them go live on Facebook or Instagram for at least 20 minutes every single day for 32 days, right? So that was a stretch for them, because in order to, what they want to do is make a big difference for people in the world, right? They want to coach people, they want to inspire people. I've got spiritual teachers in there. I've got business coaches, fitness coaches, all kinds of people, right? And so they want to make a difference for people, but many of them were hiding, right? They were afraid to talk about what they do, afraid to, invite people to get on a phone call with them. They were afraid to be seen. Okay, so think about this. The big goal is to create X, Y, and Z in my business, right? Okay, that's the big goal. But if all you're doing is making a checklist of all these things I've got to accomplish, right? Oh, I've got to do I've got to get a brand, and I've got to get a website up, and I've got to put together this program, and I've got to know what to offer. And you're just kind of working on all these kind of technical things, right? In the masculine mind, trying to make things happen. What happens is, and I see this time and time again, is you burn out, because none of that really creates the result that you want. And none of that creates small wins along the way, right? None of that does. And so what I had them do is pull back and ask, how can we create some smaller wins along the way, so that all of a sudden, it seems like all of a sudden, when you get that big goal, it's like, oh my God, where did that come from? Because you're not so focused on trying to push the bigger vision and make it happen. Does that make sense? You're focused on the smaller rocks, and we break that down, I'll tell you how that goes. You're focused on those smaller rocks, and you've created smaller games along the way so that you can actually stay in the big game, right? So for instance, they each had different goals. Let's just take one person, brand new to entrepreneurship. Sandra, she wants to leave her business, right? So one of her goals, let's just say, is to get her first long-term client, okay? So the big goal is to leave her company, right? So to make a certain amount of money to leave her full-time job eventually, right? That's the big goal. But if she just puts her head down, and she was doing this at times, right? So we have to wake her up from that, and is just focused on how am I going to leave the job, and focused on all of those things that I just talked about, she's going to miss creating any wins along the way. And it's really important that you create wins, small wins, every single day and every single week and month along the way to your bigger goal. Like I said, that's what keeps you in the game. These are the smaller games. And so we put together rocks. I do this for the whole group and for my clients. So if we're working on a 12-month, stay with me here. Let me know you're with me. Let me know you're with me because I'm talking fast. If we're working on 12 months, right, we can break that down into 4 big rocks. 4 big rocks. So quarter 4, quarter 3, quarter 2, quarter 1. No matter where you start in your year, right? You can break it down into 3-month quarters, 4 3-month quarters. So I'm thinking of my other client, Pi. She has her rocks, right? And within those rocks, you've got to break it down to a monthly rock. And then what are the little games that you play for the month in order to get to your month rock, and then weekly, and then daily, right? And so one of the things we did is I had them create their big rocks, and then a prize, right? Make it like a game, a prize that you get to have each time you hit your rock. So like a celebration of sorts, right? So, and they picked it like, well, how do you want to celebrate your big rock? So with Pi, for example, one of her rocks, okay, so she's got her big goal, right? She wants to make 6 figures in her new company that she just launched. Really, really cool company that she's working on. She doesn't have a client yet, right? So again, instead of putting your head down and working on all of those things where you're trying to just focus on the technical things and the masculine, programs and all of that kind of stuff, and really focusing on the like, oh my God, there's no money coming in. Instead of doing all of that, what can you do along the way that is going to actually start to have you create results that lead up to the big goal, right? So what are you going to do? So she came up with her 4 big rocks, and one of them happened to be that she was going to do a video series, a video training that she could offer as a free gift to people so that they could then join her email list, and then possibly, set up something in the background so that they could end up talking to her on the phone. Well, there's one rock. And so that was her rock for the 3 months for her quarter. And then what happened underneath that is, okay, on this month, I'm going to focus on recording the videos. On this month, I'm going to write the emails that are going to go out to them after. And on this month, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in order to actually have people to go and sign up for the free gift. And that became the 32-day challenge stretch that I talked about, right? That happened to be that 1 month's smaller game or goal inside of the bigger rock. Right? Does that make sense? I hope I'm not losing you guys. So I was just talking to her the other day, and she was so excited about the fact that she's already achieved 2 of her rocks, right? So when she got that big rock of getting her series done and all of that, she celebrated with a spa day. That was how she wanted to award herself, right? And so she's already just checked off her 2nd rock where she did a show, and now she's working on her 3rd rock. So what's going to happen is by the time she gets to the end of the year, right? Not this year, but you know, where she started her 12 months at, right? Her calendar year. By the time she gets there, she has created all these small wins along the way because she created these mini games inside of the big game, right? So it's the small things, like it's the small things. So I think about another client, Kelly, who came to me because she wanted to think better. She wanted to think differently. She knew that the way that she was thinking was negatively impacting her life, right? And she was being controlled by her mind. So in the beginning, it was a real struggle for her. It was a real struggle for her, and she couldn't understand why am I not getting it overnight? Right? And it's, you know, we're working on your mindset. So that takes practice. That takes deconstructing the way you've been thinking for a long time and why you've been thinking that way. Right? So what happened is we started breaking it down into little things that she could do and practice, like with her coworkers, where that was a big trigger for her mentally. Right? So we started working on little things like that, little things like that. And so even though it was a struggle for many months, I was seeing like the little shifts. I was seeing the little shifts in her mindset, meaning where she would typically be more controlling or more fearful about something. I was noticing already that she was starting to have, she was letting go a little bit more, even though for her, she couldn't see it yet, because when you're so close to what it is that you're doing yourself, right? Your goals, when you're so close to it, often it can be hard for you to see the small shifts that you're making, right? This is why in fitness, we take before and after photos. And when I'm training for a competition, it's why I take photos every week, sometimes every 2, 3, 4 days when I'm closer, because I won't see the little changes. But when we look at the pictures, we can see them. And especially my coach can see them. So small things started to happen. She started to notice that she was shifting her mind and shifting the way that she was interacting with her coworkers. And then things at work started to shift a little bit. Then all of a sudden, she was having small wins with her son. She was teaching her son how to think in a certain way so that he wasn't stressed out about the sport that he was playing. And so all of this was happening, little tiny shifts over a course of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And then all of a sudden, because of the practice she had with managing her mind and not being so focused on how something is going to happen and the fears of making changes and all of that, all of a sudden, she came to me with this huge decision that she had been putting off for more than 5 years to switch companies. That was a huge deal for her. For 5 years, she'd been tormented by this thought. For I think it was 5 years, something around there. It was a long time. But the reason she was able to do that, the reason she was able to get to that point and make that bigger shift is because she'd been creating small mindset wins every month, every week, every day. And like I said, it's during the day-to-day wins that it doesn't always feel like much. But those are the little things that are leading up to the huge wins that you're making, right? That led to, for her specifically, that led to a huge shift in her confidence. In her confidence, she was able to release the fear of, well, what if I do this and it doesn't work out? Have you ever been held back by that? That was holding her back for years and was causing so much pain. She was in this negative cycle of fear and frustration of, what if I do this and it doesn't work out? So for her to make that decision all of a sudden, because she had been practicing with smaller things, you guys get this? You see the connection? Because of the smaller things, she was able to have this huge, big win. Okay? She was able to have this huge, big win. So if you are focused on the fact that you have this big goal and it seems insurmountable, ask yourself how you can break it down and create small games inside of this bigger game. How can you do that with a specific goal that you currently have? Okay. And I see that some of you put some things here in the comments, and I'm going to go through after this live, and I'm going to answer any questions that you had. Let's see. Impacting 3,000 women's lives. Okay, so really quickly before I jump off, so 3,000, right? Like that's a big goal. You've got to decide how you can come up with how you're going to impact their life, but you get to reverse that down to each year. How many women's lives are you going to impact? And then break it down into quarterly rocks so that you can chunk down. Say you pick 100. I'm just going to say that. Say you pick 100 a year, right? That you're going to personally impact because you're going to work with them in some capacity, or you're going to be in a standing on a stage in front of a certain number of people. You get to break down into quarters how you're going to make that happen, and then month, and then weeks. The point here is make your bigger goal, your bigger vision fun along the way, because you don't want to be so controlled by your big goal that you're missing everything that's happening now, right? That you're missing all of the opportunities for creating wins and successes on the way there. Because truly, that's all it really is. I was talking to my business coach the other day, and one of the things that she was commending in me, and she said it's also the same thing she sees in her other clients that become really successful, and it's the same thing she sees in herself, is that we don't get hung up on the fact that we don't know how something is going to turn out, or we don't even care that we don't have it figured out. We just go. We put one foot in front of the other. We allow it to be messy. We allow ourselves to make mistakes. We just course correct, right? Like we don't even always know what the heck we're doing. We're just so inspired and motivated by our bigger goal, which is, if yours is to impact 3,000 women's lives, right? You get to be just so inspired by that you can't help but create ways along the way to start getting there, right? But it doesn't have to be, oh my God, 3,000, and like, how am I going to do that in the next year or two, right? It gets to be, how do I want to play the game along the way to impacting 3,000 women at some point in my life? Okay, so break it down into smaller, not just smaller wins, but smaller games. The games we play, you get to decide how you want to play this game of life. It's all up to you. I'll see you tomorrow live at 6:45. Thank you for joining me. Bye.